Hi, this is Ned Siegfried from Siegfried and Jensen. As proud sponsors of BeliefCast, we hope you are inspired by Todd's weekly podcasts, which contain so many courageous stories of recovery and personal growth. Remember, it's not what happened in the past that matters, it's what happens in the future. We invite you all to work hard and be optimistic about your future. Enjoy today's podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Inspires BeliefCast. Once again, I can't thank you guys enough for believing in me and helping me get this message out to all these amazing guests that I have on to so many people. And I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsors, Siegfried and Jensen, Wasatch Recovery, and Thread Wallets. You guys are amazing. The music that you heard at the beginning and at the end of this podcast is by my good friend Paul Cardall. He's an award-winning pianist, and he's also one of my really good friends, and so I'm grateful for him for allowing us to use his music. And just can't thank you guys enough. And today we are joined by Susan Harrow. Susan, thank you for joining us today.
I couldn't wait. It was so exciting to be on. Yeah,
we finally are doing this. We've been trying to do this for a while now, but I can't thank you enough for being on, Susan, and all the great things you're up to, and I can't wait for our listeners to hear it. You guys are in for a treat today. This woman's powerful. She her life is her message, and it's a quote by Gandhi, but I know that that's the way she lives, man. You just see all the good that she's doing, and that's who she is. And so, a little background on Susan: she's a media trainer, marketing strategist, martial artist, which I want to hear more about. She's the author of Sell Yourself Without Selling Your Soul. She specializes in working with leaders, entrepreneurs, authors, innovators, solving the world's most pressing problems. She's been, for the past 33 years, she's trained thousands of CEOs, speakers, authors, TV, radio, panel, podcasts, the list goes on. She has prepared her clients to appear on Oprah, 60 Minutes, Larry King Live, The Today Show, Good Morning America, CNN, Fox. I mean, the list goes on there too. She's been featured in all kinds of TV and magazine articles. She has a course called The Zen of Fame, Your Genius Gone Viral, where she shows people how to promote themselves with integrity and spirit. She's also known as the go-to girl for getting people on Oprah. What you might not know about her, she, again, she's this black belt, which I can't wait to talk about. And she was also recruited by the CIA to be a spy. Wow. I mean, we could do a whole segment on that, I think. So anyway, the list goes on and on. Again, Susan, my honor to have you on the show today. Why don't we start off though with, where did you grow up, and tell us a little bit about your family and your childhood?
One time when I was on a TV show, I was tasked to do a bio, and in my wild bio, I wrote, my mother was a gypsy who read people's fortunes on their faces, and my father was a marionette maker who taught me to go through life with no strings attached. Wow. And to my horror, she read this because I meant it. I meant it metaphorically. I didn't literally. And I created that because my brother is a musician, and he's a world famous klezmer musician and scholar, and had traveled all over the world. And he said, people are always messing up my bio, the media, no matter what I do. So I wrote this crazy bio, he said, that they couldn't change it. And I thought, well, let me do the same.
Yeah.
And so that is true metaphorically, that my mom, she was my first media coach. She really would always stump me with these pop questions that were really inappropriate, about, dating boys or whatever. Right. And it really is true that my dad did, teach us to go through life with no strings attached. So I thought those were two trainings where now from my mom, I learned to read people and to see to the core immediately, and that kind of spontaneity. And with my dad, it's more like the thoughtful and, really teaching us what was important in life.
Yeah. So no strings attached. Is that basically saying anything's possible? You can whatever you decide to put your mind to, you can go accomplish that?
My dad was a real women's liber. He had a secretary. At that time, women were secretaries, and he promoted his secretary up through the ranks of his corporations, that he worked for. And he really did teach me that, I could do anything that boys could do. And so, at one point I was actually playing on a boys tennis team because we didn't have a girls tennis team in Maryland. It was just boys. So I played, my boyfriend was number one, I was number two, and we played number one doubles together. Yeah.
Wow. He was your boyfriend?
Yeah. I had a boyfriend in high school and he was number one, not my father.
No, I know that. Yeah. That's
so
what I meant.
I had a boyfriend and he was number one, and
that's cool.
I was number two, and then we were number one doubles. Yeah.
That's awesome. So were you, the way you carry yourself, I'm really impressed with the way you live your life, honestly. Like I've done a lot of studying on you and watched a lot of videos about you and, read a few articles about you. Have you always been this confident, strong, powerful woman? As you were growing up, talk about some of that, how you were feeling back then and maybe some of the struggles and how you overcame those.
No, I still don't see myself as confident, and I'm kind of a worrier. And I think that part of learning all of these practices is to dispel the worry and anxiety, because I think I'm a natural fretter. So do I have confidence? I think, the research has shown that competence builds confidence. And I think I have, because I know how to practice. I was raised playing classical music. That's practicing. I was raised, when I became interested in tennis, I became crazed about tennis, where I went to a tennis camp and I practiced so much and was so devoted that they asked me to come back and teach when I was 16. Wow. I think it's that kind of devotion. And then I apply the same thing to media training. It's like practice, iteration, and practice. So when I was growing up, I went to 3 different high schools. The first was one of the best in the United States in Highland Park, Illinois. The second was one of the worst in the United States. It was where I don't know if you remember the what was the name of the movie? The Exorcist. So it was the town with the Exorcist. Our priest was the priest who had his tongue cut out. From The Exorcist. And this school was, at that time, there were race riots and there were gun searches in the locker. They searched your lockers for guns, and they were trying to do integration very unsuccessfully. So at one point, I've always been very sportsy, the captain of the volleyball team, tennis, badminton, all of that sort of thing. And we were playing volleyball, and the black girls were on one side and the white girls were on the other. And the black girls always won. And I thought, this stinks and I hate losing. So I plopped myself over on the black girl side. Okay. To their dismay. And they're like, they were all over me, like, you better not make a mistake. You better not make us lose. And what are you doing over here anyway? And I just ignored them and played. And I was, pretty good. So they let me stay, because I thought, if the school is going to be doing integration, why aren't the teachers encouraging that? Right. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to take this into my own hands and do it myself. And so then eventually more white girls came over to the black girls' side. So we had more integrated practice. And then this sort of, I sort of followed the same thing when I was getting my teaching credential for high school. I asked them to open up Mission High School in San Francisco, because nobody else wanted to go there, but I wanted to have an experience of diversity. And that wasn't even a word there, but there were kids who came over in boats from China and from the wars in El Salvador at that time. And there were kids who hadn't even seen a pencil before coming into the classroom. And that's and they opened up the school for me, and I started teaching those kids. And part of what I taught them was just practical things, because I thought these kids are not going on to college. I love Shakespeare. I majored in Shakespeare, but they don't care about Shakespeare. Yes, can I make it relevant? But let me teach them how to look someone in the eye, shake their hand, and get a job. And I started just working on really practical things, incorporating that into the curriculum. And that's one big dream that I have, is to bring, like, now it's called EQ, emotional intelligence, right? To bring EQ in the communication in school, along with Aikido, which is the practice that I do in martial arts, which is really about love, compassion, understanding, and accepting people as who they are. That's really the basis of the martial arts. And that has been used in peace practices, even in the Middle East, to bring
Wow.
people together.
Yeah.
So that's my dream, to bring Aikido and communication practices to high schools.
Wow, that's beautiful. Did you start doing that when you were younger? I mean, was that one of your
No,
goals to be a black belt?
I started as 56.
Really?
And yes. And it took me, what was it, 6 years or 8 years to get a black belt. But here's the thing, Todd. So as I said, I came from an athletic background, but I was the worst kid in the class in Aikido because it's so different than tennis, hand-eye coordination, hitting a ball, or badminton, and that sort is your whole body. And it's like three-dimensional, and there's so many different aspects of it that I couldn't even grok it. But I saw it. I took a leadership course, and there was a guy who actually had his black belt test. That's when I first saw the Aikido, and I'm like, wow, this is for me. And I said, I don't know what's involved, but it was so beautiful and elegant and transformative. I thought, I want to incorporate that into my practice as a media trainer. So no, I was so bad that people ran in another direction to not train with me. So you have to bow into a person next to you on the right or the left. People would get up and run away. Yes, it was horrifying.
Oh man.
So you asked me if I was confident. Every night, my sweetie would say to me, because I would every day after practice, I never cried on the mat, but when I was in my car, I would cry. I'm like, I'm so bad at this. It's so beautiful. I want to be good at it. And this is so horrifying to be rejected over and over again. And I want to do this so much. But I cried every single night in my car for years.
Wow.
Yeah. And my sweetie would say to me, don't hurt anyone, and don't get hurt, and soon you'll have your long black skirt. We have a hakama, which is like a long black culotte, and he would say that to me every day when I left for Aikido. And I thought, if I just continue to do this and be devoted, so I went 2 hours a day, every day for 4 days a week, and I'm still not. It's not pretty. I'm a black belt, but that just means you in our vernacular, it just means now you are ready to teach. You be taught. You are now entering the realm of being taught when you're a first degree black belt.
Interesting.
Right? Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, because you hear black belt, it's like, oh wow, man, this woman, but I love how I didn't realize that now you're ready to actually now be taught.
That's the philosophy. It's like you finally entered the realm. So, while it's a great accomplishment, what you see when you see really great black belts, what you're seeing is people who are 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th degree. That looks really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. That's really interesting and really neat. So, you go to these high schools, you're starting to, you keep using the word devotion. You're a very devoted person. Obviously, doesn't mean you don't have your struggles, which you just mentioned, which again makes you just makes me realize you're human, just like all of us, but you just keep pushing through and doing certain things. After you get through with high school, and did you go to college? And then what got you into like being a media trainer?
Yeah. So I did go to college. I went to UC Santa Barbara and UC Berkeley, and majored in English and Shakespeare, which is very useful in the real world, right? And then I worked in advertising for a while because I thought I wanted to write and create, and I just found that wasn't really my world. And so I actually worked for a couple of startups, one that got acquired by MCI Sprint. So I sold automated building controls, which is smart buildings for hundreds of thousands of dollars in the Silicon Valley, like to HP.
Okay.
And then from there, I really thought, well, let's make the marriage of sales and my communication. So I thought, well, maybe PR is what I want to go to. So there was this woman in my writing class, and she was working for Bill Graham Presents and the North Face. And I just said, hey, can I shadow you? baptism by far, right?
Yeah.
And I said, can I shadow you? So I just went over to her house, started watching what she did. And she's like, why don't you give it a go? And I'm like, well, can I see you do it first? Like, she's like, get on the phone and start booking people, on radio, TV, print.
Yeah.
And I'm like, can I see you do it first? And I just watched her, jumped on the phone because I was used to doing that as a salesperson, right?
Yeah.
And started doing it myself. And then one of my first clients was Missy Park of Title IX Sports, who is now one of the largest retailers of women's sports clothing. But at that time, she was one person in a warehouse. And I started building my business there. And when you said like struggles, well, yeah, I was living in San Francisco at the time. So I took a job at a law firm for the receptionist. And I said, I'm going to be the best receptionist you ever had, with under one condition though. When I have spare time, I'm allowed to make calls, PR calls, and I can then use all of that time to build my business. And the HR person said yes. So I built my business. I paid my rent by being a receptionist. And for some reason, so Todd, I have a really great memory for like voices and faces. So I pretty much knew all of the clients and their voices on the phone immediately. So, I could create that kind of rapport. So that's how I built my PR business in terms of doing the media placements, which is booking people on, Larry King Live, the Today Show, and the New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal, and all of that.
Yeah.
And then what I found was that I got all these great placements for people, but sometimes what happened was a great big nothing. And my clients were saying, well, Susan, I got in the Wall Street Journal or the New York Times, but nothing happened for my business. And I'm thinking, that's not my fault.
Right.
I did the booking. And so I started listening to what they said. And I started really hearing that it wasn't something that was going to connect with their audiences. And that's when I started media training them, which makes the difference. So lots of people, when they say PR doesn't work, it's not that PR doesn't work. It's sometimes they don't work. And what you and I talked about, my life is my message. Everything you do, say, are, and think needs to be in complete alignment for things to line up and work for you. If something's out of place, if the look and feel of your website or you doesn't match, people pick that up.
Yeah.
And then they don't want to do business with you. So that's what I work with people on in the background. That's part of my martial arts training. It's part of the teaching tennis. It's like everything lining up, internally as well as externally. So we really work on that fundamental level in terms of mindfulness, in terms of practices, internal practices that we do before you reach out to the media, and then practices, what do you do when you're actually in an interview, that kind of role play. So we do both. So it's building your mental and muscle memory and skills, both behind the scenes, like a meditation practice or other practices that you build that internal fire. And the internal strength is what it is. Mental agility and an internal strength.
Dang, that's powerful. It's what strikes me right now is that, again, going back to just being determined, like you said, when you got that job, like, as long as I'll be the best at what I do here, but as long as you'll allow me to make some calls and do these things. I mean, that's a pretty bold thing to do.
I didn't think about it like that, Tom. I just thought there's no way I'm just going to be a receptionist.
Right.
And, you know what I mean? And after, having kind of a high powered job in sales and everything, you know what I mean? And so, and people would ask, why are you a receptionist? And I'm like, well, because I'm building this other business. So it was my base. But so I really believe in asking for things on your own terms. Like, even when you're crafting your own, if you have a job where you're working with someone else, you want to make your way and say what of course, what you're going to do for them, but how you want to build yourself as well, because you're building yourself to help whoever, if you're working with somebody, build their business. And if it's your own business, you're building yourself for those kind of skills to have that. So I never thought about it as being bold.
Yeah.
That you named it as bold. Like, I didn't think about it like that. I mean, maybe just because I'm kind of blunt.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think it just goes with who you are. You're not, you speak your truth, kind of even going back to, like you said, living your life without strings attached. It's like, you know what? this is what I want to do. This is where I'm going. And I'm just going to let people know this as I go along my path of my life. It's just interesting. I'm watching these things just kind of fall into place as you're talking.
So interesting you say that, because that's kind of the role that I played in our dojo as the in the martial arts, even though because I have kind of a big mouth, some people criticize me for that I wasn't respectful enough to the masters or,
Really?
our sensei, our teachers. Yes, because, I think what my parents taught me and that I really internalized is that everyone is equal. Heads of state, like I've taught tennis to, when I taught at tennis camp, I taught kids of heads of state and movie stars kids and things like that. But I think of my parents taught me to talk to anyone and not pay attention to quote unquote rank or place in society. And I think that kind of training, I'm a trained extrovert. I'm actually an introvert, but my parents really taught me to look someone in the eye, shake their hand, have a conversation, find out about them. And I think that extended. And what I was saying about being on the Aikido floor is there's so much politics and patriarchy everywhere. So it's in businesses, but it's also where I didn't really know it would be. And I mean, it's mostly a male dominated industry, right? Like but I didn't realize how much politics and how much planning and kind of negotiating there was on the dojo floor in terms of people rank and respect to the teachers and all of that sort of thing. And it's not that I didn't respect the teachers. It was that my goal is to get better in Aikido. So whatever I needed to do to do that, like I was going to ask for help. And so if that meant volunteering, like the sensei knew, to be made a fool of. So the sensei knew that, no, I mean, seriously, he knew if he wanted to demonstrate things and nobody would come up, I would do it to look stupid because I wanted to learn.
Wow.
Because that was my goal, is to learn. And it was like at one point he said, Susan, come up here and demonstrate. And he showed how he could hold me down with one finger on my arm and I couldn't get up. And he said, am I hurting you? I said, just my pride.
Wow. I love that. That's amazing. Well, I love what you said there too about you don't know unless you ask, right? The power of asking, just like the answer is always no unless you ask, right? It could still be no, but at least you ask the question. And surprisingly, like even when I'm doing this podcast, I've reached out to, some high level people, on a whim, I'm like, well, the answer is no. If I never ask, at least I can ask and maybe they'll still say no. But it's interesting. I've gotten a lot of yeses.
Oh, I bet you have.
Yeah. Which is really cool. And I just love that philosophy that you're talking about. It's like, you know what? No, I've been taught to ask. I'm going to ask, hey, I want to do this. Let me try this. Again, I look at that as bold. I think it's bold that you do that. And I think that's a good way that we all should be a little bit more like that.
And it's scary. I mean, I recognize that it can be really scary.
Right.
And I think I'm always looking at what is my goal. And even though it's scary in the moment, can I do it? And I can't always do it.
Right.
Oh, I mean, it's not like I have 100% success record, but I have that spirit and that, that spirit that if this is the goal that I want, what am I willing to do to get it? And consistently asking. And so in martial arts as well, the guys would stay late and afterwards. And even though I was super, super bad, I thought, well, there doesn't seem to be any rules to who can stay late and train. So I just always stayed. And so the guys had to train me. And they eventually accepted me because I was an eager learner. And even though I was really bad, and it must have been really frustrating to train me. I mean, one guy who was helping me in it was my second Q test. You have to go through, there's 8 Qs or 7 Qs before you reach black belt, 7 different levels.
Okay.
And he was teaching me and he just started shouting at me because he was so frustrating. And I finally said to him, I go, you're trying to help me, but shouting at me, I really can't learn that way. I said, so please, here's how I learn. you need to just tell me to do one thing at a time, because Aikido was so complicated and he was telling me all the 10 things to do. I said, tell me one thing at a time, like tell me where to put my feet, then tell me where to move my body. Then, and I said, this is how to teach me. I said, because otherwise I'm not getting it. And he sort of calmed down.
That's
And
good.
yeah, but I think that's part of the asking too. Like if you're like, it wasn't working for me and it wasn't working for him too, right? To teach me. I was doing it in the best spirit, but it wasn't really helping me.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. Well, you've created this amazing business, again, with all this experience you had growing up and the things you've already explained to us. You've been named one of the top 10 media coaches by Huffington Post. Tell us about your business. You wrote an amazing book called Sell Yourself Without Selling Your Soul. You do one-on-one consulting. You help so many people. Tell us how you got that started and kind of what you're doing today with that.
Yeah, so I've always worked with socially conscious entrepreneurs, people who are making a difference with the world's most pressing problems, but that can also mean a fabulous chocolate bar,
Right.
and to sort of balance out the heavier stuff, gender inequality. And like I had one client who was the first autistic women lawyer in her 20s.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
So I mean, and she, like, for example, she was saying, why aren't people like me creating these diversity courses? And I'm like, yeah, people who are neurodiverse should be creating the neurodiverse courses. So
Makes sense. Yeah.
Makes sense, right? Like, but that's not how the world works until somebody changes it. So, so I work with people so their message has real meaning and really lands when they do, and kind of whether it's a podcast, a panel, print or radio, TV. I work with them behind the scenes to prepare for those individual interviews, and then we iterate, like what we were talking about before. We practice to make sure we do role play. So it's actually real life situations, what this would be like, and making sure, looking at where all your trigger points are. So you work through those with me versus on camera in front of 1 million people, or, in print, you get print in Forbes or Inc., and you can never take it back. You can ruin your reputation in a moment. So I work with people so they build their business and brand, and the perception of them is what they want in all of those mediums.
Gotcha.
And so I work either one-on-one with people, or they can take the Zenifame course. And I have lots of free things on my website, prsecrets.com, videos, special reports, master classes. All those things are free as well, if that's where you can start.
That's a beautiful website, by the way.
Thank you.
It again aligns up with who you are, right?
Because beauty and elegance and that kind of feel, richness, that kind of abundant. I wanted to feel cozy and abundant. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
No, you bet. Well, I was watching something that you were explaining some things that, if you want to have a successful interview, and one of the things you said that really stood out to me was you need to give to get. What are you going to give to get back? Explain that, because I really love that principle. I share it with my own clients about, if you want to give it away, so to speak. And that's kind of what that principle I learned, which changed my life in so many ways. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
So most of us are self-conscious, and we're nervous because we're thinking about what people think of us. But if you can flip it in two ways, like E.M. Forrester said, only connect. So your job is to connect with your audience and to ask the question. It's a simple question, is like, what does my audience need to know now, and how can I help? So what can you give that, if the question is, what am I here to give? With the gifts and the abilities and the magic that I have, what can I deliver that connects with the audience that I'm trying to connect with? So that's always the question, versus what can I get back from that? Of course, we all want things back, but and I ask all of my clients 3 questions. Number 1 is, what's your big vision? How do you want to serve? Number 2 is, what do you want for yourself professionally, personally, physically, financially, emotionally, spiritually, because PR can open all of that. So we really look at the whole picture of what you want. And then, what do you want my audience to do? What action do you want them to take? And that's the energetic connection between people, because you want the people who resonate with you.
Yeah.
Right. So when you were talking about like my choice for the law firm, it was it's a choice that, we are doing an exchange, and it's got to work for both of us. So when I'm looking at a job or a client, I'm looking at, are we a good match? Not, can I sell them, but is this going to make both of us deliriously and deliciously happy working together? And can we accomplish what they want and more? Right. Like, so sometimes when I ask my clients, like, rate me on a scale, we're rating the call together on a scale of 1 to 10. Some people say 1,000, so they got more than they imagined, because we don't even know what our great capacities are together to reach the other person's goals. That's what I'm looking at. Like, how can I help you go where you want to go and beyond, where you can't even imagine that, right? Like, let's expand the beyond.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I think it's the job of you and I, right, to like show people, like, just expand their own vision. Like, some people have a vision. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Like, is that big enough? Is that big enough for what you really want, for your work in the world, for your work on yourself? Because when I talk about Gandhi's message, my life is my message, that really is. And Jim Rohn said it best. He said, how did he phrase it? If you work on a job, you can make money, but if you work on yourself, you can make a fortune. Ooh. And I think he's not just talking about money.
Yes. Yeah.
He's talking about the riches within each of us working on ourselves. So when people say they want to change the world, they have to change themselves first. It's not the world, right? It's the internal shifts that people, just like with my sensei, I want to embody his qualities. I studied him and always positioned myself right behind him, so I could like see my body and his body to take on that kind of transmission. And that's what I'm, where can we get those like transmissions? I wish it were that easy. Like, I remember reading a book. It was about Russians and how they could like put their hand, it was like Russian spy stuff. It was like they could put their hand on a book and get all of the information out of the book. I wish that were true. Like, for me, I tried it, but like, and I feel like that we can do that with people too. Like, we see a quality, we can embody the quality, but then it's not always like instant. It takes that kind of practice to embody that quality.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautifully said. Yeah. So you talk about embodying things and wanting to mimic certain things. What does your day look like? Like, how do you keep yourself, centered, so to speak, and with this energy and this passion that you have and the devotion you have to your work?
It's a big job.
Yeah.
because I'm highly sensitive, and I think, I was thinking about this, Todd. I actually started meditating when I was really young. I was in church and I was looking at a candle, and suddenly I wasn't there anymore. And I felt like this deep love and deep sort of expansiveness. And I didn't know it was meditation. I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
But I realized that was like the first experience of like not being just completely in my body. And by the way, I guess the rebelliousness started early, because I felt like I refused to go to confession, because I thought, why do I have to talk to a priest? Why aren't I talking directly to God?
Ooh.
Why do I have an intermediary? I said to my mom, I'm like, you can make me come. She made me come and sit in the pew. I said, but you can't make me go in the confessional booth and confess. You can make me go in the booth, but I'm not going to say anything. I said, I'm going to tell my quote unquote sins directly to God, and have a direct communication. So I think I started exploring that and exploring Buddhism. So my daily practices start before I get out of bed. I do a number of practices, because once I'm out of bed, I was just talking to my BFF. We studied meditation together in Paris 45 years ago. We studied intensely there with some spiritual masters, but before that I said to her, I go, if I'm out of bed, I'm already not gonna, my day has started, I'm running around. So I am in bed, I pet my cats, they come up for their love, so that's very calming because they're both purring. I feel like we all meditate together because they're purring away. And I start I pretty much tap every day, and then I do a meditation, and I do something else called the one command. So it's just it's a practice of going into theta, going into the theta realm. Yeah, so I practice that, and then on my altar behind me, which you can't see behind those doors, I always start my day by saying I light a candle and I say, open my path before me. It's Carolyn O'Casey who says, open my path before me and grant me the opportunity to be of maximum good in the world.
Ooh.
So that's my deepest intention for every day. When I'm with a client, or I say, may this be for our highest good. Guide me to this highest good for that person, for both of us together. So that's when you're talking about like not selling or whatever. See, that's my behind. Even when I go to networking things, it's like, can I meet great people? Can I connect with the people who I need to connect with that will either become friends or great business partners or whatever, but can I just meet great people?
Yeah. Wow.
Who I resonate with. And then at the end of my day, I have kind of rituals at the end of the day as well. Yeah.
Okay. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I've noticed people who are typically, just in my experience for doing this for 33 years, people who have a morning routine on some level typically are a little happier.
Really?
I really do see that.
Like a morning meditation routine, or
like I heard a statement once that really stood out to me. If you win the first hour of the day, you win the day. If you lose the first hour of the day, you spend the rest of the day looking for it, right? You were anxious, we're running, that kind of thing. And, I'm a former drug addict alcoholic, and my mentor 33 years ago said, Todd, you need to come up with a morning routine. He goes, the best thing for your recovery will be that. And I didn't really fully believe it when he first told me, because I wasn't a morning person, right? But it truly has been the single greatest thing gift I've ever given myself, is kind of similar to some things that you're doing, is setting my intent for the day, reading my declaration, imagining my day going the way it needs to go, imagining having this podcast session with you, so to speak, and learning from you, Susan, and all the great things that you're doing, and putting myself in that mindset. And it's awesome. And when I hear you say that, it doesn't surprise me that you do something really intentional in the morning to get your day going in the right direction.
Yeah, I think it's important, and sometimes I'm really impatient with it, I have to say.
Me too.
Like this morning, like I woke up at 5 a.m., and I'm like, okay, do I go back to sleep? Do I do a meditation? Do I get up and get coffee?
Right.
And even though I didn't want to do it, I thought I want to prepare for this podcast and I want to be in the right mindset. So I went through, and once you start, I think sometimes the hardest time is starting it, right?
Yeah. For sure.
And even with Aikido, because it was so hard to go, what I would do, because I'm tired at the end of the day, it starts at 6.
Yeah, right.
I don't want to go. I would put on my gi. I would put on my gi and my hakama. I would get dressed before I was tired, like at 5 o'clock, even though I needed to leave at 5:30, because then I would have to get undressed if I wasn't going to go.
Yeah.
Right. So it was part of my like getting myself out the door, even though it was really hard and I was tired. And 99% of the time I didn't want to go. But 99.9% of the time I was happy that I went.
Right.
After. Even if it was like super hard and I was crying in my car, I was still glad that I went. But that's part of I don't know, that's the really hard part, I think, of and I heard a yoga teacher talk about this too, that she was a teacher and a yoga quote unquote master. And she's like, she'd wake up every day and she didn't want to do yoga.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? You like, this is your life? And she's like, yeah, it's really hard. Like, I'm going to get up and start with the 5 minutes. right?
Wow.
And then see
Yeah.
if I can go into a longer routine. Sometimes I can't, you know.
Yeah.
So I was kind of surprised to hear that from her, that it was hard for her too, because we always think it's easy for people who we see have some level of mastery.
Right. Love that. Well, couple things I want to ask you. Some of these are sometimes tough, but what do you love most about yourself?
Wow, that's you know what I love most? My BFF just sent me an article on what makes how to become a how are can you become a creative genius?
Mm.
And I loved that she and I are very similar. I said we met in Paris and became really great friends, best friends. But the number one thing is I'm a curious person.
Mm.
I really am curious and care about others. So that's what I
Yes.
like about myself.
Yeah.
That some people, like my sweetie calls it, what did he say? You're interrogating me. You know, you interrogated me. But he said, what did he call me? He said, you captured me by sexy listening.
I like that.
Yeah. So he said, you do sexy listening. So I think that's one of my good qualities is I do
No,
sexy listening.
no,
Yeah.
that's a beautiful answer. Thank you for sharing that. I love that. If there's someone listening to your voice right now that might be struggling, they're in a dark place, they just are stuck. They're just struggling right now. What would you tell that one person right now listening to you?
Movement is so great to move energy. I think sometimes what happens, and this is proven out in research too, right?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
if you're depressed or you're sad,
Yeah.
movement. I remember, okay, so I'm an athlete, right? But I had this boyfriend and he started running 12 miles a day and I was running 5. And I thought, well, if he can run 12 miles, then I can certainly
Yeah.
run 12 miles. So I started upping, I ran when I was at UCSB, Santa Barbara. I ran in the morning on the beach, in the afternoon around the lagoon. And one day this woman came up to me and she said, I see you running every day. I want to start and I don't know what to do. And she was pretty heavy,
Mhm. Yeah.
and I said, start by walking a block, one block.
Mhm. Yeah.
I said, because you can do that. And then I forgot about, I mean, I was what, 18 or something.
Yeah.
And I came
Right.
back to visit Santa Barbara, my friends, like a year later. And that woman saw me and came up to me and said, I started walking that block. Now I'm running 5 miles. I'm like, what?
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
even like this random thing
Mhm.
so start with the smallest micro movement that is. And if it is just for you going outside to your gate and back to get that movement in your body. And then the other thing that I think is so healing, Todd, not everybody's an animal lover, but I think animals are really
Yeah.
amazing creatures.
Sure.
So, I mean, I've sometimes like I do walk every day 3 to 4 miles, and sometimes I'm super crabby,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's really hard to walk, but I have strategies to do that. But I can tell you, I love all the dogs. I know all the dogs in the neighborhood, and the quickest way to get me out of a bad mood is dog love,
Yeah.
right? Because
So true.
they're so excited to see you. There's this one dog, Enzo, who looks he's got these gold eyes. He's like not a labradoodle, a golden doodle.
Golden doodle.
He's
Yeah.
got these beautiful golden eyes, and I swear to God, he's the most soulful dog. Comes up to me and looks into my eyes, puts his hand on mine, loves me up, and gazes into my eyes like tantra or something.
Yeah.
And I just feel like it's so happy making to pet a dog and to have a dog love. And I have 2 cats, but I was growing up with dogs. But any kind of animal love, I think it's really helpful to
Yeah.
people who are depressed or sad or whatever, because animals know, and because animals just love us no matter who we
Yeah.
are or what kind of mood we're in.
Yeah. No, I think that's
And it
very
doesn't
well
have to be
said.
your own dog. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be your own dog or a cat.
Yeah.
It could be the neighborhoods, because that's how I, fill up too, with the not so much the people, the owners, but
Yeah.
the dogs themselves, right?
Yeah. That's great advice. I love that. Um, so if there's people out there that want to use your services, they want to get your book, they want to maybe do some one-on-one with you, What's the best way for someone to do that? You mentioned your website, prsecrets.com. Talk a
Yeah.
little bit more about that, and then how someone could get in touch with you.
Yeah, hop on over there. And then there's, if you want to get in touch with me and have create an appointment, I have a link for that. So you can you fill that out and we get to know each other that way. And then I have like that free thing. But the other thing that I think would be helpful to your audience is that I have an opt-in that's called, it's to create your signature story, because if you're planning to do any media, you have to have your story of origin or your signature story. So I have a PDF that is 5 templates of the most common stories. And you can do it in 5 minutes because it's fill in the blank, and then you can modify it as such. But everybody can get their signature story done if you're a speaker, if you're going on a podcast, because the first question a podcast host asks is, why do you do what you do? Do you want to have a story of origin? I actually didn't tell my story of origin this time because we went off in another direction, but I have I have a number of them to fit different things. So it's prsecrets.com/sigpod, SIGPOD. So like signature podcast.
Gotcha.
So prsecrets.com/sigpod. So that's a great place where anybody can start. Even if you have a signature story, it might inspire you to have another one, or another different type. And of course, there are more than 5 types, but these are the 5 main types.
The main types, yeah.
Yeah, you can do it in 5 minutes.
I love that. What's on the horizon for you? Do you got any big plans? Another book coming out or anything like that? That's something you're working on that you could share with us?
I have been really thinking about this a lot lately. So I don't know about another book. I'm going to be working on a TV pilot, I think.
Oh, really? Wow.
That has to do with martial arts and girls and martial arts. And the other thing that I have, because somebody just asked me to be on their podcast about this, but we didn't talk about this. I do have a course for girls, and I was creating one for women. We went into COVID, called True Shield, Verbal Self-Defense for Girls. I licensed it to schools and organizations and dojos and shelters and that sort of place. So it's the 10 most difficult or dangerous situations that girls find themselves in to stay safe. And it teaches them, it's an in-person program that then the teachers or the phys ed teachers or whoever teaches in schools, they teach themselves. So it's a program. I don't teach it. It's already laid out so they can teach it. So that's something that I really would love to revive now that we're back in person again.
Yeah, right.
And I'm 99% done with that course for women in corporations. So I haven't taught it yet. So that's sort of like a pilot, but I just wanted to put that there as a future thing that that is available. Listen, if somebody books it, I'll get it done.
Yeah, right. There you go. And I love that. And how that's so needed right now for that. So I think I love that you're doing that.
Yeah. So I'm working on that and just kind of exploring right now at this stage. I'm kind of looking for something a little different. And I don't know. I still love my clients and working with one-on-one, but I'm not sure, doing a lot of podcasts and not sure what's going to be next yet. So I'm kind of in that open mind state. Yeah.
Gotcha. Wow.
So if anybody has an idea or wants to ping me for anything, I'm open to hearing.
Open to hearing. Wow. I love it. Yeah. Wow. Well, I have no doubt whatever you decide to do, you will do it. Because just the way you live your life. And again, I said this earlier today, I'm very impressed by the way you carry yourself. Again, I love that you're also honest about, hey, I still have my struggles and I still struggle here or there, but yet I keep coming back to the word, you're very bold. You call it blunt but I just love that you just,
I like bold better.
Yeah. You love asking the questions. You're not afraid to ask the questions. And I think we need to all be more like that. I've learned a ton from you today already. I'm going to be on a TV talk show on Thursday, which I've been on quite a bit, but I've learned a bunch just by researching you and seeing all the great things you're doing. That's going to help me with that. So thank you for that. So you've helped me.
I'm so happy.
Yeah, just by sitting here talking to you. So thank you for that. And I love what you're doing. I want to encourage all of our listeners to not only after you're done listening to this, I want you to share this episode with everyone that you know. Please go get Susan's book, Sell Yourself Without Selling Your Soul. Let's help her out. Let's help get her message out to more people. If you're interested in creating your own story and getting it where you want to be, please reach out to her. I'll have all her contact information in the show notes. And obviously you can tell she's very approachable, and you know what? She's not afraid to ask, so don't be afraid to ask her, right?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for being so generous, and you're so kind to all of your guests. I mean, that really is, I think we need more kindness and compassion in every area right now, and you really demonstrate that. And I think that's my BFF, she said, okay, so this is the year of awe, wonder, and I'm always forgetting the third one, so I'm just going to say adventure. It wasn't that, but I think you really represent those things too, like that you have this capacity for wonder and awe, and you really bring that out in your podcast, and for your clients as well. So thank you for that.
No, that means a lot. Thanks. You just made my day. So thank you. No, thank you so much. And I appreciate all the good you're doing. And I can't wait to get this message out to my listeners and followers, and I'm here to support you in any way that I can. And so hopefully we can build a sort of a friendship as we move forward. So it's just great to finally meet you, Susan. And again, grateful for all you're doing.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Well, there you go, listeners. I told you that today is going to be great. Susan Harrow, please reach out to her, prsecrets.com, and check out all the great things that she's doing. And please share this episode, like I said, with all your loved ones that are around you who may need a little pick-me-up and maybe a push in the right direction. So thank you for your support. And again, thanks to my sponsors. I love you guys. And one last thank you to Susan. Thank you for being a light in this world that we can all follow.
I so appreciate you. And thank you everyone for listening and being a follower of Todd, because obviously you get a lot of fulfillment and enjoyment and encouragement.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Till next time, everyone.